What better way to say it's fall, y'all, than with fall leaves in your village? Some pieces, like this, have leaves painted directly on it, but perhaps there aren't enough. Maybe you need more leaves to go around. There's two popular options for village leaves by village makers. Department 56 has their own leaf set. It's yellow and orange on fabric. It has a really defined shape. It is pretty stripy, not too terribly realistic. They fall really well because they are so flat. Lemax has their own set of leaves. These have a less defined shape than the Department 56 leaves, but there is more variety in the color, especially with this burgundy. It's blended rather than the striping effect. Still pretty large when compared to the figures. With the added texture, which looks really good on the set, it does tend to fall in clumps, so you have to be mindful of that. So both Department 56 and Lemax are relatively cheap and pretty available. But the problem with fabric leaves are the loose threads. If you see them in the package, then you're going to see them in your display. That's going to be on your base, on your figures, in the air. Leaves a lot to be desired. So what's a villager to do? In this video, I'm going to show you how I make my own leaves using plastic faux plants. They have that defined shape. It's not as bright, a little bit duller than the fabric leaves, but they have the texture. Best of all, they're not fabric, so they're not going to shed everywhere, and they're not going to blow away with a little sneeze. This bunch comes from Hobby Lobby and is usually available when the fall seasonals hit the shelves. I use a pair of snips for this project simply because they retract, which does save your hands undue stress. Scissors work just as well. You could just start cutting like I'm doing here. I have found that there's a lot of twisting and turning of your hands, and the leaves get lost in the bunch. It's just not fast enough, and there's room for error. What I do is I'll snip off branches one by one and then twist the branch hand rather than my cutting hand. You'll want to lay the flat edge of your snips against the branch. That way you get as much leaf as possible. Best to cut at an angle, that way your leaf isn't completely flat at the end. And you will have some that are like that. Now there's no need for precision when it comes to making your own fall leaves. Leaves aren't meant to draw your attention away from your village pieces. Leaves, much like snow, are used as a filler and a finisher. This whole bunch yields a really good amount of leaves, much more than the individual D56 or Lemax packages. It takes about an hour to de-leaf this whole bunch. You can stop whenever your hand gets tired or when you think you have enough. Is that even possible? Be sure to snag your bunch when it's on sale and as early in the season as possible, as these do tend to sell out. Usually I'll leave the top 2 or 4 together just for some additional texture and height. Tip-top leaves will be the smallest and have the most detail. My leaves have a lot going for them. The size, it's not so small that they just get lost, or they're not too big where they just overtake everything. The added texture, a pretty defined shape, blended colors rather than hard stripes, and there's variations. They fall pretty easily. Best of all, they're reusable. As with most faux plants, you're going to have some that are just going to be messed up. You can trim off excess plastic or disregard them. I store my leaves in a recycled food container with a screw-on lid. I hope my leaf technique will add that splash of fall color to your village.